Good morning. Thank you for joining us. So today in this session, we're going to discuss how to get your MSP into the maximum profit making zone. I really love this topic. It's something I'm particularly passionate about, not just because profitable business means more money in your back pocket, but profit is intertwined with every single area of your business. And as a result, today's session is going to be really varied, and we're going to cover multiple different areas of the business. My name is Bradley Munday. I'm the Managing Director of Uptime Solutions. Uptime Solutions is a channel-only white label provider of help desk, knock and SOC services. So as a business, we've architected ourselves with offices in the UK and New Zealand. Sorry, 2 seconds. My screen sharing is paused. Why is my screen sharing paused? I do apologise. 2 seconds.
Perils of a live webinar.
Right. Apologies, technical difficulties there. So Uptime Solutions, we're architected with offices in the UK and New Zealand for overnight work. So we've got 24/7 lights on to be able to provide our partners with native English speaking and really drive up the communication and also technical delivery that we're able to deliver as part of our white label service. I started Uptime Solutions in 2009. We were originally an MSP, but we transitioned to this channel only model some 3 years later. So across the 11-year journey, we've obviously focused on all the different areas of profitability. So I'm pretty well placed to talk with you today about maximizing profit within your MSP.
And a very good morning to everyone on today's session. My name is Wilson Sanders. I'm one of the account executives in EMEA for IT Glue. For those of you that aren't familiar with IT Glue, we are a best-in-class documentation platform built out of necessity from within a managed service provider for the use of other MSPs, internal IT teams, basically anyone who's looking to get a better handle on their documentation and the way they work today.
Perfect. Okay, so just to start off with a quick statistic. So these figures are pre-COVID and they aren't specifically about MSPs, but what they do show is just how difficult running a small business is, with less than half being profitable. Now that for me, when I saw this figure, is phenomenal. And that obviously goes closely in line with the amount of businesses that fail in the first 5 years. So just by starting an MSP business, you know, you've undertaken an enormous challenge. Just to understand where we as MSPs are in terms of profitability, I'm just going to pop a quick poll up, and it'd be great just to see where you are in terms of profitability within your own business. So let me just launch the polling on that. If you'd just like to vote when that pops up, please. Perfect. Okay, so it looks like the majority of people on the session today are in a profitable position, which is fantastic. So hopefully some of the things that we'll cover off throughout this presentation are going to help you just move into the maximum profit making zone, as we're calling it. Okay. Right. So what is PMZ, a maximum profit making zone for MSPs? So it's a careful balance between the 5 key business areas that we see on screen here. As you can see in this diagram, each one is linked to another, and they all have impact on the next. So let's start with services. So what are your MSP services? To make maximum profit, you really fully need to understand where your strengths lie as an MSP. You need to understand why your customers come to you, and also why you're better than the competition. This is really going to help you position those services. As MSPs of matured, not many these days do everything. Don't get me wrong, there are still people out there trying to do everything, but you'll probably find that they're not doing everything extremely well. So it's critical that you understand where your specialisms are. What areas do you serve best? They are going to be the ones that will deliver you the best profits. Utilising the right technology is critical to delivering maximum profit. Now, that's going to be both internally and externally to your customers and making sure that they're aligning to the right technology as well. Inefficient and outdated technology stacks inside your business are going to be the cause of profit loss across all areas of the business. You know, we need to make sure we're aligning the right technology all the way through from accounts to the help desk to the sales team as well. They're going to have a direct impact on all areas of the business and the productivity your staff can deliver for you. So on to employees. Getting the most out of your team has to be a strong focus for your businesses, and for any business really. You've got to make sure that they've got the right tools, the right processes to be able to deliver on your behalf. And great performing teams, as everyone know, will deliver great margins, of course. So small oversights in managing your employees can have significant effects on the business. They'll have effects on the profit ultimately, and how well they're able to deliver the services. So really, really important that we're delivering the right employees with the right technology. They really go hand in hand to make sure that your MSP is making the most of its profit-making capabilities. Processes then, one that I find is usually the one that gets forgotten, if you will, is processes. They're not always documented, but your business is built upon a collection of processes. You know, they work like cogs in the system, each one turning to produce a result. So if you've got a bad cog in there, ultimately that process is going to fall down and it's going to eat away at your bottom line. So got to make sure that we're reviewing these business processes and making sure that they're delivering the best outcomes. That's a continual process that needs to happen. And finally then, we're on sales. It all comes down to sales. If your business isn't making any sales, probably not going to make any money. So the focusing on winning of new clients and the addition of extra services to the clients that you've already got, that's a really key one that we'll come on to later. To deliver maximum profit from your sales, you need to have done the alignment of services to make sure that you can differentiate yourself from the competition and go ahead and close those sales. Okay, so let's cover off services in a little bit more detail then. Firstly, identifying your USP or even USPs. It's critical in getting your services to the optimum position for maximum profit making. Got to understand how we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. And you should be able to clearly identify your USP in a maximum of 3 sentences. Wilson, just putting you on the spot then, what's the IT Glue USP in a maximum of 3 sentences?
Oh, a maximum of 3 sentences. So as a platform with a lot of capability, we've got a lot of USPs. However, I'd say the main one is being able to eliminate all the time waste that would exist in your MSP by at least 50%, giving you, your techs, any of your engineers more time to pursue growth and innovation within your business. That would be the main USP, I'd say. Perfect.
I wasn't counting, but we'll, I reckon, sentences. So your USP is going to be what differentiates you from the other MSPs in the market space. And as we know, it's a very competitive space. But it's something that always needs to be remained aligned with the services that you deliver, even as your business grows. Take the time to look at those USPs as well. It may be that as your business grows, as technology shifts, that your USP also needs to develop. So what is your focus? In order to identify your focus, you need to understand what you're good at. And we need to make sure that the focus in terms of the services that you're going to deliver is in line with your USP. If there's a mismatch there, that's going to eat into the profit. So you need to make sure that we're focusing in those services to the USP. You may very well find, certainly we found this when we were a smaller business, is that you'll have services that kind of randomly sit within the portfolio. Maybe there's something that you offer to a handful of clients. In order to win the business, you kind of shoehorned in another service just because you felt like that made the package complete for the client that you're going after. You'll probably find those fringe services, as I'll call them, are the ones that are eating away at your profit. You're just not set up to deliver them. And as a result, they're the ones that are taking the time, and they're the ones that are making you less efficient. You can have more than one focus. You can have multiple focuses for different services, but they must be focuses. You've got to make sure that you're well aligned to deliver them, and that they fit and overlap each other and complement each other. So on the flip side of that, after saying that you really need to focus in and define your services, you should also be very aware that you need to make sure you've got the full accompaniment of services for that focus. So not saying deliver all things to all men, but just making sure that if you're a specialist in a particular area, you really do encompass that entire area, just because otherwise you're at risk of losing clients to the competition that maybe have plugged some of those gaps. And making sure that you're not missing something critical. Again, it's a key area of service provision, just making sure that you're not missing something in terms of resource as well. Just you've got all the resources to deliver on those focuses. So how do we deliver? You're out there, you're saying to your customers that you do XYZ service, but how do you ensure that you're delivering that in those areas? So making sure that your team's really equipped to deliver. So making sure they're not overstretched, making sure that they're not undertrained. They're often some of the key causes of profit margins being eaten up. So once we've identified our focus, we also need to identify the accompanying training and all that sort of stuff, and also the staff that you need to deliver, and we'll come on to that in a bit. That's how you're going to maximize profit for your MSP, making sure that you're 100% able to deliver the aligned services. Awesome.
Absolutely agree with everything that you said there, Brad, and leads me quite nicely onto technology. So I think we all know the right technology will boost your profit margins. According to a recent study of 3,000 employees, inefficient workplace technology will dramatically decrease productivity. And that's going to drive 20% of end users to their own IT solutions rather than the ones that you want to use. And with that, a lot of security threats go with it as well. That's an entirely different conversation. And the reason why they do that is because they think it'll improve their ability to complete their work, when in reality it won't. That study, I'd be happy to share it with any of you after today's session. It's by a company called White Hat Virtual Technologies. Outdated technology, or even a complete lack of technology, that's the cause of business inefficiencies and lower profit margins. It's also the cause of employee fatigue, frustration, and dissatisfaction with their roles, which in today's environment with COVID and everyone working from home is only exacerbated, in my opinion. So for me, to ensure your MSP can move into the maximum profit-making zone, your internal tech stack should deliver these three key things. One, to be able to enable secure sharing of knowledge, documents and credentials, as well as client information business-wide. Two, it should be able to provide real-time insight into both team and client performance, status and requirements, and also enable fast, secure and reliable communication 100% of the time.
Perfect. Just before we move on to the next slide, I think it's important to add that whilst we've just looked at sort of technology inside your organization and making sure that that aligns well to your focuses, it gets talked about a lot, but also aligning technology for your clients is going to be a big one for profit. So making sure that once you've aligned the technology stack, that you're working with vendors that align with your USPs as well. There is no point working with you're out there saying, hey, we've got really good SLAs, but when you need to raise something with your vendor, you're sat on the phone for a couple of hours. It's not going to align. So it's really, really important to find the vendors that align with your focuses. And when you're bringing on new clients, help them build out this technology roadmap just to make sure that they're aligning with your technology. You don't want to be looking after this massive technology spread because it's just going to eat away at that profit. So, by doing so, you're going to make sure that you're driving down ticket numbers, you're driving down ticket time to completion, and you're also going to minimize configuration errors by just your guys knowing that technology stack inside out. Okay. So employees, we've got to make sure that we've got the right people in the right places. I know that recruitment is going to be a challenge for MSPs. I have those conversations with MSPs all the time. And obviously with what we do with white labeled services throughout the channel, we also recruit technical people all the time as well. I know the challenge is there. But once you've found those right people, you're on the path to success. They're going to help you grow profitability within your business. Whilst you're on that path of finding the right people, don't be afraid to take the time to find the right employee. It's all too tempting when you're busy and you've grown a little bit to just go out there and just add someone that kind of fits the bill to the team. From a profitability standpoint and also from a client delivery standpoint, it's just a bad move. They're not going to work out. They're going to cost you money in terms of making other members of your team less profitable and less efficient, whilst they're trying to get these wrong employees to get up to speed. So make sure that they're the right person. In the same breath, don't always expect the finished article. You want to find someone with the right, I guess, core skills. So for us, we're making sure that people are personable. They're going to be good customer facing. I always look for what I call troubleshooting ability, just this innate need to know how stuff works. That makes a great tech employee, certainly. You can fix and plug technology gaps, but just make sure you understand what it's going to take to deliver that in each of your team roles. What does the role that you're employing for need in order to be successful? If you don't align that before you go out there and start your recruitment process, you're heading towards eating away at your bottom line. So also understand the pros and cons of training inexperienced people for them to be able to deliver in your MSP. I'm not saying don't employ them, but what I'm saying is just understand what is going to be required. How long are these inexperienced people that maybe have some of the core qualities going to take to get up to speed before they're delivering for your MSP? And if you try and wing it, and maybe your team's not quite where it needs to be, you will be discovered by your clients. You know, they're going to find out the areas that you can't deliver in, and that may result in loss of revenue and see unnecessary time being consumed by people that are struggling to do their job because they're not quite the right fit. So to make maximum profit, you must have the right people in your MSP. I think this is one of the biggest things. You know, these are the people that are turning the cogs that we mentioned earlier on and that sort of stuff. So once you've got the right people, we then need to make sure that these people are then allocated to the right tasks. You know, having them is one thing, but then understanding where to allocate them within your MSP is another. So I guess just going back to that recruitment process, we need to know who we need, why we need them, and what role they're going to do to make sure that we're bringing the right people onto the team. Otherwise, you're going to have the wrong resources trying to, maybe like a good example, having a third line engineer resetting passwords for clients. That's a very expensive resource. They're wrongly placed. They shouldn't be doing that. And be aware of your existing team's strengths and weaknesses. That's how we're going to identify new key people and where they should sit within the business in order to be able to deliver on your chosen service areas. And the other thing I'd add that we found quite useful is to have a skills matrix for your team. So not just the certifications they hold. People that are certified, they're obviously going to be your go-to. But just ask your team about how comfortable they are with a variety of different areas. It will help with escalations. You know, your first line can look at this skills matrix and go, okay, the certified guy, maybe he's tied up, he's visible, but let's go next one down. Who feels comfortable and competent with this particular technology? You're going to get those tickets to people that are best suited to deliver on those tasks. Finally, on employees, is working out where you are in terms of resource utilization, and more from an additional demand perspective. In terms of additional demand, how are your employees going to react? Do they have the ability or the bandwidth to be able to step in, or are they working at maximum capability at the moment? So we need to be aware of that. And where possible, it's critical that you identify or have an idea of where this additional demand might come from. Good example in recent times is obviously COVID. No one really saw that coming. Perhaps we could have done, but no one was ready. You know, MSPs across the globe were struggling to get people up and running, loads of tickets. But there are other times where maybe you've gone on a marketing drive, your sales team are out there with a really big push to bring on new monthly recurring. You need to be aware of that. You need to make sure you've got the right skill sets ready at the right time to deliver for your MSP.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And that brings me on quite nicely to processes. And your business, like pretty much any business that exists out there, is built on a series or network of interlinking processes, no matter how simple or complex these may be. And these should really be regularly reviewed in order to ascertain whether they are still delivering the desired results and not sapping valuable profit margins for your business. Inefficient processes should, of course, be replaced with new processes, but these should be more, in today's world, technology-facilitated workflows, and workflows that are going to allow multiple team members to step in, minimizing profit-reducing roadblocks that see clients dissatisfied and staff frustrated. Your processes should be clear, concise, and streamlined, and these should cut out the middlemen and any unnecessary steps and take the path of least resistance. Your processes should be non-dependent on single team members, allowing whole groups of people to step in and solve the issues where needed. No business should really have a single point of failure, no matter who it is, whether it's the first line tech, anywhere up to the CEO. If that person isn't in, something can't be done, that's a massive issue. So there should be no reliance on those single team members. Readily available to all team members 100% of the time. All of your processes should be readily available whenever they're needed. Access to workflow documentation is critical for continued service levels. And enabling everyone to solve issues, even if it isn't their usual working area, is really important and will allow you to do more with less as well.
No, absolutely. I think in when you mention not relying on a single member of team as well, it's not necessarily to say that you can't have one person doing a task. It's as you pointed out, just having the availability of the process and having them documented just means that anyone can just sort of pop in and make sure that continues when that person goes sick. Because as a small business, you are going to have individuals that do particular tasks. You're not always got a team in all departments. Okay, and so finally we come around to sales. We've spoken about it time and time again throughout this presentation as well. Having an understanding of where your value is will help you deliver more profitable sales. Your existing clients, they're going to need to understand why they buy from you. Take every opportunity you can to sort of drive the value that you're providing sort of down their throats, if you will. That might be monthly reporting. Make sure that those reports are really demonstrating the value that you're providing. If you're having quarterly business reviews with your clients, making sure that you come to that meeting not to discuss all the tickets that didn't quite go to their requirements, but to talk about the value that you're providing. And also looking at, we talked a little bit there about working about your add-on services, making sure that you've got that matrix of your clients and your add-on services. So when you go to a quarterly business review, you know exactly what they're not buying from you, so that again you can start to talk about the value that would drive their business, so that you can start to sell some of those add-on services, which are going to drive more profit. New clients need to be aware of why you're more valuable than the other options. I think, again, just to mention COVID for the third time, I think in this presentation, is we've seen a big shift in that businesses that perhaps weren't so fussed about technology have now gone, you know what, I need technology to bring my business forward and to continue to survive. By you being able to demonstrate why you're more valuable than your competitors, it doesn't mean that we can get rid of this race to the bottom, and you can actually it's okay to be more expensive than the competition, as long as you can deliver and demonstrate the value that you're providing above your competition and the others in the market. And then finally, your team need to be able to take this message confidently out to the marketplace and talk about this value and go out there and sell. Sales, of course, should equal profit, but unfortunately, it's all too often that this isn't the case. You need to be aware of the type of clients that you want, the level of monthly recurring revenue that you need, and the services that you need to deliver to get the best return on profit here and make the most profit. Certainly don't spread yourself too thinly. Always be referring back to what your focus is and go out looking for clients to match that focus. One thing that I thoroughly recommend is to actually have almost a client profile on your website. This is the sort of clients that we drive value for. This is the sort of clients that should come on. These are the people that should come and talk to us. It means that the clients that aren't going to bring you maximum profit, maybe they're going to be noisy or they just don't align to you, they're going to be turned off because they don't match the profile. But whereas those that do match your client profile, a lot of that stuff's going to resonate with them. They're going to be going, hey, these are the guys I need to pick up the phone to and have a word with. Right. So make sure that you can replicate your service provisions for clients over and over again, just making small tweaks to the services that you deliver. That's going to boost your profit margins no end. If you're out there delivering super bespoke services to an array of different clients, array of different technologies and needs and expectations, the result is going to be going back to being spread too thinly, not knowing the technology that you're delivering inside out. It's going to drive up tickets. There is just, it brings a world of pain, I think, bespoking too much. So I'm not saying don't be flexible, but just making sure that those small tweaks that you're making are replicated throughout your PSA, they're replicated in the documentation, templates that you're using, all of that sort of stuff. It just fits and it just makes that profile, going back to the procedures, just means that they can all be documented. You're not relying on one person that went out there and bespoke something that only he understands how it all works. And you can afford to be choosy with your clients. If it means safeguarding and enhancing your margins, be choosy, and I think more often than not, we know when we're talking to a potential client that is just not a good fit. It is incredibly tempting to bring them on anyway, but at that point, we're looking at turnover as a vanity metric rather than looking at profits, which is where we really need to be. That's what keeps the lights on, right? Fantastic. That brings us to the end of our presentation. We're going to open it up to a Q&A. So if you find the chat boxes that you've got there, you can pop us any questions that you might have. Wilson, if you'll be so kind as to field any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Absolutely. We've had one come in from Greg here, and Greg says, my technical team is bogged down with business as usual tickets to the point where my senior resources are tied up with it too. What would be your suggestions to resolve this situation?
Okay, so fantastically aligning with not having the right people doing the right things, and it's a tough one. If you've got all hands on deck and you've got yourself in that position where perhaps earlier on was the time to go, get your ducks in the row and make sure you have the right people. You've now gone to a point where it's quite difficult to break the cycle of lots of business as usual. How do I get out of that? And I think there's a couple of ways to get out of that, actually. One is to go and start looking for those right resources. Who should be dealing with that business as usual? Go and find those resources. Try and distance yourself from the business as usual and let the team get on with it. But go and find the right resources. It is kind of, you're going to have to go and employ more people to get over this this resource hurdle that you've got in order to let that settle back down and get people working back to where they need to be. The other alternative, of course, it'd be wrong for me not to mention it, being that we're a channel-only white label provider, is look at engaging with an outsourcing provider. It might be that you could get rid of maybe your knock tickets and back office kind of support, or maybe you want someone to actually deal with the client-facing help desk side of things. You can engage with an outsourced provider to help you deal with the fact that you've not got enough resource right now, and maybe that's a good way to grow the business moving forwards as well. Okay. Yeah,
definitely good answer. And did just want to kind of add on to that as well. I feel like some of the points you raised in the profit making zone matrix really stood tantamount to that earlier. Obviously on the employee side, hiring more people, a great idea to kind of reduce that workload down across the board. But also look at your processes and make sure those are as concise and as easy to follow as they can be. And just going on what you said as well, consider the technology that you have. Look within and make sure that what you're using is as good as it can be today. For some of the smaller tickets, could you perhaps create a knowledge-based portal that your end users can sign into and find their own answers to some of the questions that you're confident that they can solve themselves?
Absolutely, and I think it's if Greg, maybe he's watching this going, some great ideas there, but it's just, you do get bogged down in if the business as usual has got out of control, it's so difficult to and that's why I think the two combined, go and get some more people. You've got to get some more people. More resources got to come from somewhere so that you can start to implement a lot of the good things that we've been talking about today.
Definitely. We've got another question here from Sandra. Sandra says, we have clients that we know aren't profitable, but saying goodbye to the monthly revenue is still tough. What approach would you recommend?
Yeah, I think it's always difficult to say goodbye to money, even when you know it's not doing anything for your profits and what you actually take home at the end of the month. You perhaps don't need to say goodbye. If this is the right client and the right partner for you, they will understand that you're a business and you need to make money. Go and identify, hopefully you've got the PSAs and the right tooling in place to work out why they're not profitable. You can see, are they creating too many tickets? What technologies are those tickets for? Is there a pattern emerging there? Go and have a conversation with these clients and work out, is this a great opportunity to go, look, we're not making any money, but at the same time, it's probably costing you money as well. If this customer's staff are on the phone to you all the time, making you not profitable, there's a good chance that it's eating into that your customers' profits as well. Time wasted on the phone to technical people is not time that they're delivering in their roles. So don't necessarily say goodbye. Go and have the conversation first, identify what needs to change, and go and talk about making that change. If they don't want to spend any more money or they don't want to rectify it, then I think you can part ways as friends. It's not working for you, and it's perhaps not right for them moving forwards either. And it makes the goodbye a little bit easier. It doesn't come out of nowhere. You obviously don't want to be going and saying, picking up the phone and going, by the way, we're not working with you beyond the end of the month. That's not gonna do your reputation any good. So by engaging in the conversation, being very open, I always find just makes that easier. And a lot of the time they'll buy into that, and perhaps it was just a conversation that needed to happen.
Yeah, most definitely. I don't have a whole lot to add to that other than that I completely agree. For the MSP space, a market area which is so heavily based on referrals for new business opportunities, also I've heard, it's important to keep relationships amicable and keep those breakups amicable, because they will happen. There's no avoiding it. They will happen. Either you will outgrow your customers or they'll outgrow you. It's a completely natural thing. So having that friendly breakup is really useful, because you know that you won't be bad-mouthed to someone else in your area, especially if you work in a very specific geographical location.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, that looks like that's the end of the questions. Okay, so on screen now you've got my details, you've got Wilson's details as well. Wilson, I know I am. I'm sure you are as well. Happy to field any questions that might come up as you review any notes that you've taken and all that sort of good stuff. If there's any questions that come up post this session, please do reach out and contact us, and we're more than happy to share any further insights that we might have.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Cheers, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.